Okay, lots of robots joining. Hi, Dr. Bose. Laura, glad you were able to make it. Okay, we'll give everybody another minute.
Amber, they're looking for a joke.
Oh, let me show it. Let me bring it up here. Or actually, let me just share the presentation. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yep, we
Yes.
can see it.
Yeah, this one's a real knee slapper. Is Caddy King on? Hold up. And I'm going to text her. Okay. Well, we can go ahead and get started. My name is Amber Freed. I'm the founder of SLC6A1 Connect. This is our July virtual monthly lab meeting where we bring together doctors and scientists and industry and parents who like to be in on the latest and greatest science to discuss a topic and then have conversation. Our mission is that we're a patient advocacy group dedicated to improving the lives of children and families affected by SLC6A1. And our focus is to raise awareness and fundraise to advance scientific research that will ultimately result in a cure. So we actually do have some people on the call today I would like to introduce, starting with Yui. Yui, would you like to give an overview of yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Amber, for the very warm invitation. So, hello, everyone. I'm Yui. It's so great to be here, and I'm looking forward to learning from all of you. So, I spent the last 5 years at Regulars Therapeutics, where I worked on developing antisense oligonucleotide therapies for epilepsies and neurodegenerative diseases. So one of the programs I worked on actually focused on the SLC6A1 related disorders. So Regulars was acquired by Novartis last year, and yesterday was actually my last day with the company. So now I'm looking for the next opportunity. And if you happen to know any of the like research institutes or biotech companies that are looking for someone with my background, I'd really love to connect after the meeting. Thank you.
And what I can say about Yui, I've known her a long time now, and she is just the most pleasant, brilliant, like she would be a dream coworker to work with. She nothing gets by her. Like everyone knows that my complaint in science is that it operates on some weird continuum of time. Not with Yui. Every deadline is met a week in advance. She's on top of everything. She thinks of every contingency scenario. Like she is really just an absolute dream to work with, but also just the absolute nicest and very much cares about the patient. Like she takes personal time away from work, will offer her personal opinion on things that are just confusing. And I am going to send out a separate email about her with her contact information. And yeah, if you know of anybody, if you could put your email into the chat for everybody, and then I will follow up as well. Is anybody else new here?
Yes, we are new here. My name is Jan Sprengers. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist in the Amsterdam UMC, working at the Emma Center for Personalized Medicine. And yeah, we're also seeing patients with SLC6A1 at our center.
Yeah, and my name is Gwen Veld, and I'm a resident in pediatrics here in the Emma Children's Hospital. And for at least the coming 6 months, I will be working together with Jan on patients with SLC6A1.
This is absolutely amazing. I had the incredible opportunity to meet some people from your center earlier this year, and we could not be more excited about how much interest there is for our patients. And I hope you're all wearing your friendship bracelets that I believe Heike was able to pass out. And we hope so much that you're able to join us at our symposium.
Yes, we are not wearing the bracelet now, but we received the bracelet from Heike, so that was really, really nice. Yeah, we'd love to learn from you about SLC6A1.
Amazing. And this is actually a good opportunity with psychiatric people on the phone. We do have a mom joining right now. Her name is Christine Bryant, who is in the middle of a crisis. And I was going to have her give a 2-minute overview of her situation. You're in New Jersey, right, Christine?
Hi, yes. Actually, my maiden name's Bryant, but Brian, yes, I'm in New Jersey.
Would you mind just telling everybody what's going on, but more so how they can help?
Okay. I mean, there seems to be kind of like a system failure in New Jersey as far as treating psychiatric needs. My son will be 10 years old next week. For the first time, he's in an inpatient facility, specifically geared toward autism. He's extremely high functioning though, but it's the only place, it's out of state in Pennsylvania, that his medications can be managed, although they argue that that's not really their thing, but it's working in a way. He has side effects to most medications that stabilize him. What we deal with mostly are like aggressive behaviors that seem to be uncontrollable. Well, he'll express, "Mom, I really don't want to hurt you." Antipsychotics are wonderful. They help him so much, but he gets tardive dyskinesia and depression from the cocktail he's on. So he was stable, and we had added a tricyclic antidepressant, hoping it could help him with some depression and maybe wean off some of the other medications for OCD-like symptoms and so on. And it made my son manic and crazy, and he had attacked a mother here. He turned into the exorcist. He was in handcuffs with police. It was horrific. They injected him with Haldol. He had a dystonic reaction to Haldol that froze his jaw to the left, to the right, open, closed, terrifying. Then he was pulled from a stabilizing medication because he had that reaction to Haldol, and it was an antipsychotic, and it could exacerbate the dystonic reaction. So we've been on a merry-go-round. White blood cells dropped from amantadine. and we're trying to find the right medication combo. And he's in the institution right now, messing with other kids and telling them that he's a murderer. So it's really sad. I don't know what the future looks like, but all I know is that it's difficult that there's not care beyond, like in New Jersey, it's beyond like 7-day crisis stabilization. So med washes cannot be done in this state. Observing medications for side effects that can take some time cannot be done in this state. My son has had to be removed from our home, placed in a facility where we can only visit him, and the care is not fantastic. So we have a medication issue with the side effects. They're trying to help him now with Cogentin to offset the side effects. And it's never been more apparent how critical these medications are for the kids that present with psychiatric symptoms. I have the sweetest boy that says, "Mom, put on your sneakers. I don't want you to roll your ankle playing tennis." And 10 minutes later, he's attacking me at the park and I'm screaming for help. And he wouldn't stop if I didn't get help. So I don't know what that is. The neuropharmacology aspect, I think we need a huge call to action, but I also recognize that these medications are not curative for SLC6A1. I could keep going on.
Yeah, and we have another mom on the phone. I could see she was driving, so I'm not going to call her out, but her son has been hospitalized for psychiatric reasons for a couple of weeks now, too. And one topic that keeps coming up is neurosteroids, and all of a sudden, all of our kids are having psychiatric crisis. So something to keep in mind as we keep discussing behavior. This meeting is switched up a little bit. One of our speakers became a father for the first time yesterday. So we are going to present Matrix and also our upcoming PFDD. And Dr. Bose, if you would like to introduce yourself and what we are trying to do.
Sure. Thank you, Amber, for that introduction. So just real quick, my name is Moshami Bose. I am an associate professor at Montclair State University in New Jersey. And I'm also a rare disease parent. And part of my research, especially as a result of my experience with my son, my research interests have been looking at community needs in rare disease communities. So what I've been doing for the last several years is helping different rare disease groups put together externally led patient-focused drug development meetings with the guidance of the FDA. So I've done this for two other rare disease groups previously, and Amber and Laura contacted me to see if I would be able to do the ELPFDD for the SLC6A1 community within the next year. So I'll just I'm just here really just to introduce myself, see if anybody has any quick questions, but to just give you an idea of what's going to happen here and to give you a little background of why we're doing this. And I think it's pretty relevant considering the parent that just spoke before, is that, the FDA is involved, as you know, in the approval of new treatments for various disorders. They go through a clinical trial process. And what they have found just historically is that oftentimes these clinical trials fail and they don't come to market because they don't, after all of these years spent in our research and development, they, when they get to the patient, there's a lot of unforeseen things that happen, side effects or other aspects that result in failure of clinical trials. So the FDA to try to address this, I think they realized that one of the things that wasn't incorporated in that clinical trial process meaningfully was the voice of the patient. So they started these patient-focused drug development meetings to try to get patients and community members of a specific disease community to come and share with the FDA what their experiences were living with a specific disease getting feedback on what's the current landscape of treatments and how well are they working? Are there any side effects? And if there were to be new clinical trials for new clinical trials for treatments for that specific disease, what would that patient and family community want it to look like? So that's really what we're doing here, is trying to get that feedback from family members in front of the FDA. So this is a really, in my mind, it feels like a really important opportunity to share your voice directly with the people that are approving new treatments for various diseases, including SLC6A1, and what can happen here in sharing your voice and sharing your voices directly with the FDA. All of this information will be put together into a report that will then be submitted to the FDA and housed on the FDA website. And the hope is that the content in this report, of all of the families sharing what their experiences are and what they need in order to meaningfully participate in clinical trials, it will serve as a blueprint so that when a new treatment comes to be investigated by the FDA, they'll have this blueprint and say, okay, well, here's this new treatment for this disorder. Let's look at this voice of the patient report and see and use that as a way to best design clinical trials so that patients end up with meaningful outcomes in the use of these treatments. So that's that. Again, this is just meant to be, hi, here I am. I'm going to be involved in your community for the next year or so, and I just wanted to just share a little bit about what we plan on doing. Amber, is there anything else that you want me to share?
No, I don't think so. I just really want to reiterate to everybody on the call, like, parents are going to be there in person. We would love as much industry, for lack of a better word, coaching, because I feel very strongly that so many trials have failed because we're not measuring the right things. And I'm constantly on my soapbox to drug developers that please work with us, because what endpoint you may be being told doesn't necessarily matter to us. As an example, we've spent the past couple of years talking about seizure control and counting seizures. And I think in a lot of ways we are either have achieved it for a lot of patients or will achieve it. And what we found out is that doesn't mean your kid can live at home. It doesn't mean that they're not breaking out glass with their bare hands, bleeding out, trying to cut you with glass shards for absolutely no reason. Like, the psychiatry piece is bringing us to our needs. And now we're finding that there's nobody in the system to help. It doesn't fall under neurology, it falls under psychiatry. And we're in this weird place that lies between neuro and psych that's a no man's land. And really needs to be addressed. And meaningful life improvement is going to come a little bit from every area. And how do we address that? One nice thing that Dr. Bose keeps reminding us of is, luckily, we are limited to the brain. So we don't have to talk about heart and vascular and, some more complex syndromes. And this is a point in time where everyone has to listen to us, where everybody hears that lock on the door, and we're all here to learn about SLC6A1, and no one's leaving until everybody is crying.
I might have said that. That's what we need. And thank you, Amber, for all of those really, really important points. And I will, reiterate that, like, like just like the parent that shared before, this is the type of real life information that needs to be shared with the FDA, is that we talk about what it is like living with this disorder, and why the current treatment regimens are not working, and what you know very specific impact that it has on the lives of both patients and families. And it's a pretty powerful thing to be able to do that in front of members of the FDA. So I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I definitely, it's going to be an intense meeting, but I think it's going to be a very, very productive and impactful meeting, especially with all of the important stakeholders, including the regulatory stakeholders in the room. So I don't want to take up any more time here, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take any quick questions. I'm happy to take them. And then I'm hoping, with the help of Amber and Laura and the other members of SLC6A1 Connect, that I will have other opportunities to give more granular details of what this process looks like. And, all the families that agree to participate in this will be given very, very clear and explicit instructions on how to best engage, and what any opportunities to ask any questions that they want, so that they feel comfortable in sharing their stories with the FDA and everybody else in the room during that meeting. Is there anything else that you guys want me to share?
Dr. Bose, I sent you a private message. I'm also in
Okay.
higher ed in New Jersey. I'm not far from Montclair. But I know Amber sent out the information. Is this being held in Washington?
Go ahead, Amber.
Yes.
Do you want to answer
Christine,
that?
and you'll see a lot of emails.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you also, Christine. We should have a date very soon, but we're hoping it will be May 2027.
And we are bundling our sponsorships for this year's symposium along with the PFDD because they're both such monsters. And it's also double visibility into very, very important things. So it's twice the value. And so I'm going to go through the rest of the announcements fairly quickly because we are running short on time. SLC was chosen as one of the 6 genes to participate in ARIA, which is aligning research to impact autism. This is Sergey Brin's initiative to make the world a better place, actually. And if anybody can do it, it is a founder of Google. We are not quite sure what this means quite yet. We've had a couple of early meetings with them. Very, very excited. More information to come. We also have a lot of new publications out, particularly STX, or I should just say Ravicti. And the takeaway from these publications is that people who receive gene therapy will most likely do better if they have gene therapy and stay on Ravicti. There is also a patient-reported outcome paper, and they found of everybody observed, there were developmental gains, and Ravicti was well tolerated. There's also a new overview paper of SLC available by a neurologist in Arkansas. And this was incredibly scientific, so I'll send out the link. Oh, and another patient burden survey. Our symposium is coming up December 3rd, the day before the symposium, or the American Epilepsy Society in Denver, Colorado. There are travel scholarships available, so please apply, and please encourage your students to apply. We really, really love students and encourage them to attend. There are a limited number, and seats are actually filling up pretty quickly this year. So please register. We'll put that link in the chat. And then one of our speakers today, Farhan Damani, actually became a father yesterday. I believe his sister is on the phone. I'm putting you on the spot, Farah, but if you would like to give an update on your brother. He was going to speak about his new AI venture, and essentially, I'm going to give the totally parent view. He's doing whole exome sequencing, whole genome, whole exome for parents, healthy controls, and affected patients, and looking for parents that are unaffected and why. And how can we take learnings from healthy people and have some insight genetically what is protecting them from this disorder. Sarah can give a more scientific overview because she knows him as well. And Sarah Poliquin, who I think most people on this call are familiar with, is going to give an overview of Matrix, our rare disease data website that we are using to collect SLC data and create a virtual natural history study. What is great about this is that the nonprofit has access to this data and can freely share it with any qualified person who would like to study it. Sarah, I will hand oh, Farah, no baby yet, but they are in the thick of it. Okay, last I heard, mom was being induced. So Sarah, if you would like to take this call over, go right ahead.
For sure. Let me just pull up my screen here. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about a natural history platform called Matrix. And what's really nice about this, as Amber mentioned, is that the data is owned and governed by the patient advocacy group. So here that would be SLC6A1 Connect.
Oh, and Sarah, sorry to interrupt, but before that, could you give the scientific elevator pitch of Farhan's initiative?
I haven't really been very involved with those conversations. I think Lindsay with Zoric.
Okay.
Terry Joe, I saw you're on the call, but are you able to talk about that? I don't know if you've been on those meetings.
I have not. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, all I know is like the 10-second overview that he's looking for. And we have a couple cases where the SLC6A1 variant was inherited from a parent carrying it who is mostly unaffected. And so Farhan's hoping that there's some indication of like other genetic factors protecting from the variant. But yeah, that's all I know.
I can fill in a little bit. So we founded this company along with a founder of GeneDx. And Farhan is the uncle of an affected patient that, strangely enough, lives 10 minutes from me, and it's a beautiful little baby. So sorry for that somewhat chaotic overview, but Sarah, now continue. Babies actually don't care what we're doing or when they decide to come.
Okay. Yes, so this study is done as part of an initiative from COMBINEDBrain, and I think several of you on the call are familiar with COMBINEDBrain, but for those who might not know us, here's just a brief intro. So we are the Consortium for Outcome Measures and Biomarkers for Neurological Disorders, And we're just essentially trying to all work together to develop resources and treatments for these disorders. Our focus is primarily on neurodevelopmental disorders, but we have expanded over the years to include neurological. I believe SLC6A1 Connect was one of our founding members back in 2020. So our mission is to speed the path to clinical treatments by pooling effort, studies, and data. And so natural history studies is one of those efforts. We are a nonprofit consortium consisting of patient advocacy groups, clinicians, academic researchers, and pharmaceutical and biotech companies. That's just a brief nutshell. Oh, and along the path to treatments for disorders, you have to go from identifying the gene and characterizing the disorder, including natural history data collection, all the way towards testing the potential treatments and getting regulatory approval. So just putting in context the great importance of natural history collection towards getting a treatment approved. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about our study. So we're using a platform called Matrix, and it has a lot of really great aspects to it. It is patient-centered. It's free to the individual patients. The patients are in control of their data. They can share it with anyone. They can withdraw their data and consent, etc. We use the clinical research ID, the CRID, to link to other studies so that we can decrease the burden on the families. If they've completed a outcome measure on one platform, then maybe we don't need to ask them to complete it on ours, and we can just share with the CRID. There's individualized data entry that is possible in addition to validated surveys. We have a number of different languages, as well as the platform is fully international. It can be accessed from anywhere in the world. Our study is, of course, IRB approved. And then for the patient advocacy group, there's a large benefit in the fact that Matrix is relatively low cost, and there is the possibility for profit sharing if data is sold to researchers. And the PAG and COMBINEDBrain both have access to the data. So this is not just in a black box. It can be, Amber could log in any moment of any day to access the complete data set. And we have validated surveys as well as the option for customized disease-specific surveys, can link electronic health records. There's, as I mentioned, the CRID. Clinicians can also enter data directly into Matrix. So if you are seeing a patient in clinic and there's information that we are collecting on all SLC6A1 patients, and that can be added directly into Matrix and linked with their account. And yet the individualized data. But the Matrix platform, it's used for many different rare diseases, well beyond just genetic neurodevelopmental disorders. They have over 200 patient advocacy groups who are using the platform, representing well over 300 different rare diseases. They have patients in 145 countries, and the platform supports 11 different languages. The data is, and the platform support regulatory compliance. It is, of course, HIPAA compliant and GDPR, FDA compliant as well. It can be used for centers of excellence, drug repurposing, phase 2, 3, and 4 clinical trials, and even post-market surveillance or FDA safety. Some of the data that can be collected on Matrix, it has a lot of different capabilities. So there can be patient-reported outcomes, clinical outcome assessments, diaries such as seizure diaries, case report forms, can collect electronic health records, data from apps or sensors, as well as uploading other data forms such as EEGs or genetic tests, etc. And because of that, there's a lot of flexibility for the types of studies that can be done by using Matrix. You can use it for simply a contact registry. can gather retrospective data through the electronic health records or through the clinician surveys. There's cross-sectional data, of course, through most of our surveys. This can be used for prospective longitudinal data because families will be asked to log back in and complete surveys on a set cadence. SLC6A1 Connect right now is using it for broad exploratory natural history, meaning that there's a relatively large battery of surveys that families are asked to complete, but Matrix has also been used by other patient advocacy groups for a refined set of endpoints for clinical trials. COMBINEDBrain has many of our member patient advocacy groups all using Matrix. Here's a list of who's using our same set of surveys. So this is all these patient advocacy groups are all collecting the same sets of data. And so we can compare across disorders very easily because they all have those same exact outcome measures and the same format of the exported data. It's really easy to compare. So what is it that we are collecting on Matrix? There are a number of different caregiver entered surveys. So we have the complete set of the ClinGen Genome Connect surveys. So those dive into detail about every bodily system. We have the Vineland, of course. We have the PELS seizure survey, a ketogenic diet survey, CDC milestones. We have observer reported communication ability measure, or the ORCA. We have the aberrant behavior checklist, ADHD assessment, another behavior form, the children's sleep habit questionnaire, and quality of life inventory disability. So we are trying to capture much more than just simply the seizures. As was mentioned earlier today, there are many components of these neurological disorders beyond just the seizures or the developmental outcomes that can be very important to the patients and or their families. And so we try to collect this broad list here. And then we always have the ability to add additional surveys that might be of specific interest to SLC6A1 Connect rather than our entire COMBINEDBrain group. This is just more detail on the ClinGen surveys. So as you can see, it's pretty thorough. If somebody has if they say that they have any issues with one of these bodily systems, they will get a second survey popping up that asks for more details about it. And then there's even level 3 surveys that go into much greater detail. And so of note here is the seizure survey. So we have a lot of rich data about seizures and medication and age of onset and all of that. Matrix can be used for things besides the surveys. So a key use at COMBINEDBrain and SLC6A1 is collecting genetic reports. And so we can store them in a secure manner and then curate them. And so, taking all of the information out of those PDFs or screenshots and entering it into a format for an easy spreadsheet download that can be analyzed more easily. Can integrate electronic health records, collect EEGs. This is retrospective or prospective. And clinicians can also enter data, and patients can log medication therapies and other factors of interest to them. So a little bit more detail on the EHR connection. Almost any clinician or institution in the United States can be found through the system, and their data is pulled in. It'll pull the SNOMED clinical terms. The user is in control of the data that is shared. And so then this is able to be it's curated. It'll pull out okay, this medication, this dose, this start date, this stop date, or here are their lab values, and all of that is in a spreadsheet ready to analyze. I mentioned EEGs. So we are doing an initiative to have SLC6A1 families get their raw EEG files from their providers, any EEG of any format, any length, any reason that they've ever had an EEG acquired, and upload that to Matrix so that it can be shared with you all, with the researchers, as well as there's an option with COMBINEDBrain to do prospective EEGs all in a standardized collection manner at family conferences such as the symposium or at patients' homes. There's just quick pricing if anyone's interested in that. And then clinician data. So this is great because it keeps all of the data in one place, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple slides. And the PAG retains control of the data. And if the clinicians themselves are very busy and don't have the bandwidth to enter data, if you have a research coordinator or assistant or somebody who can enter the data into Matrix on your behalf, then that's also something that other patient advocacy groups have done. And if there are reports being generated, and then those documents could be uploaded, and the PAG can have someone do the actual work of sitting down and entering all of the data from those PDFs into like forms in Matrix, again, for that easy analysis of downloading everything as a spreadsheet rather than having 50 different PDFs to sort through. Yeah, and I mentioned that Matrix can be used for other things such as contact registry, managing consent forms for other studies. And then patients can share their data. And so this is a really valuable and useful tool just for them, independent of research, because all of their data or information and medical info is in one place that they can choose to share with other caregivers or with their clinician. And just the benefits of why use Matrix. So these are all things that I have seen from working at COMBINEDBrain, is sharing data. So you can have the most wonderful researcher who is super collaborative, wants to share their data, but then they move on to another institution and the home institution says, no, the data belongs to us, you can't share it. And so I have seen 10 years of natural history data from an academic just be stuck in a black box because the institution wouldn't release it. There can also be issues if it's two researchers from two different institutions wanting to share with each other. Again, you can have the most collaborative people ever, but their institution can get in the way and fail to come to the legal agreement on the data use agreements. And also the speed, even if they do come to an agreement, this can take over a year. I've seen that happen, and having the data in a centralized repository like with COMBINEDBrain and Matrix means speed and flexibility. What we want to do is we want to share the data to everyone. So we will work with you. Our data use agreement is as minimal as it has to be. We want to get it approved by your institution. Also, all the data is in one place, so it's easy to know what's available. You can see that, oh, we have genetic information from these patients and longitudinal survey data from these folks, and also EEGs from another subset. All of that's in one place. And then adding data from clinicians would be great as well, because again, it's all linked with the patient's account. And so it's very easy to see who we have this complete data set on and who maybe, whether it's the patient advocacy group can chase after people to get more data if they've only completed some elements of the study, or you as a researcher, maybe you want to know only the people who have biosamples and EEGs. And so then because it's all in one place, it's easy to filter for the specific data sets that you need. And then the patient themselves, they can share this data with other studies. So if they take a survey on Matrix, they can download that and share that with another researcher. And so that decreases the burden on the families and hopefully leads to more people knowing about SLC6A1 Connect, because by being able to share the data instead of asking families to retake all of these surveys and fill out all these forms, then we get more info being shared without the burden. So yeah, that is my overview of Matrix, and I would be happy to answer any questions about it.
I have a question. Dr. McDonald, are you still on? Oh, yes, you are. There you are. Chris, do you think this is something that we could have someone enter data in for?
I mean, I think potentially yes, but for like the research that we're doing now, I would like the efforts to go into the red cap so that it can be accessed by like data analysts and all the folks in the way that it's being done through CHOP. So, right now, if we're saying like we're going to enter into a red cap, we're going to enter into like a shared Excel spreadsheet like created by Zach Greenspan's group, and we're going to enter into Matrix. That's like a lot of times entering the same thing over and over. And so I would like to start with the one that's going to get us with posters and data and things sharing. And with Matrix, I would think eventually we could, depending, as you know, we're just getting started with this new ability to have time to enter data. So the short answer is, I think eventually, yes. The longer answer is not right now. And I would recommend that the families, while they can do it, they get started on that. And then as we understand more what the time constraints are and what the ability of, the different members of our team that are helping us outside of like me and Lena are, and like how we can use it, I think we'll be able to do that a little more.
Okay, that makes sense. And Sarah, if they connect their electronic health record, would that take care of some of the data entry?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend on what exactly Pam and Zach and everyone else is collecting. If they are like the clinical notes that gets pulled in, all of like the standard stuff, what the patients see with their My Chart or Epic, that is what'll get pulled in. And so I don't know if there's other stuff, Pam, that like you're entering that maybe wouldn't be accessible.
Yeah, I think what we have done, and I haven't seen, I would think Zach uses something similar, but we are trying to essentially make as much as we can all of our notes like smart forms, smart phrases, things that can be very easily pulled by data analysts. So hopefully that's like very easily pulled into anything. And that way the data is like easily pulled, but also consistent. So we have like our smart forms that divide like seizure type, frequency. So that way we're all using like the same language when we speak about, a drop seizure. Is a drop seizure a tonic seizure, or is it an atonic seizure? And so in the way that our smart forms are done, everything's, essentially we're all using the same. I can't speak to other institutions. Things I won't be able to get, I don't know if they're pulled or not, but there's like EEG, MRI, labs, genetics. They're all sort of some handwritten, some pulled in, depending on where they were done. So that part, and then, raw data, of course, that has to be manual if you're getting EEG tracings and things like that. But
yeah, I think what could be really interesting is if we have a couple of the families who you are seeing, have them pull their EHR records into Matrix, and then we can sit down on a call and like go through the data and see, if it's complete or if there's something that's missing. Because it's possible, maybe like if there is stuff that's missing, you could give the patients just a like email or file or info on a flash drive after a visit, and then the family can upload almost any sort of document to Matrix. And so that is another possibility of getting it all in one place.
yeah, I mean, I can ask about the EHR. I can't put data on flash drives from like our visits or anything like that because everything is like in ways I can't pull it myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I see a
it
hand
sounds
raised.
like we can explore. Yeah. Katrina?
Yeah, sir, this is excellent. I just wanted to ask if do you have any agreements with European institutions? Like where you have an agreement with an institution and they like automatically upload data. I mean, we also use Epic, so
Yeah, so with the EHR, that gets really tricky with Europe. To the best of my
yeah.
knowledge, nobody's been able to
Okay.
get that directly linked. Again, like if the family has the records, the family can upload anything they want. But in terms of that automated, the way it works for families who have seen a US clinician, which by the way, to clarify, the person doesn't need to be a US citizen. They just need to have seen a US institution or US provider. So I know some families have traveled from Europe and elsewhere to go see like Pam or Zach or some of our other key clinicians. That info could potentially be pulled in. But yeah, no, European institutions, just due to the complex regulatory environment, it has not been so easy. And at this time, I don't believe that Matrix is able to pull anything from Europe.
But we
But I
can
will
give you access.
Yeah, I actually
also,
emailed Katrine the data set she had asked for a couple weeks ago. I sent that to
Yeah,
you.
much appreciated, and I received it. So thank you.
But Sarah, to be clear, if I'm a European family and I have all the data, but I have never seen an American doctor, but I can upload it myself.
Yes. Yeah, there's a section just called documents. If you already have an account, it's where you would have put your genetic report. You can also upload EEGs there. We cannot do MRIs. Someone else had mentioned MRIs. But yeah, EEGs, lab tests, just clinical notes, really anything can be uploaded there.
Okay, thank you.
Lindsay?
Yeah, hi. What if families are uploading just documents in that way, like from Europe, is there then someone like diving into those documents, or they're just there as documents? There's no, it doesn't like pull out the data or stratify the data in any way from those documents. It just is like a holding bank.
Yeah, at the time being, it would be a holding bank. But what's really nice about Matrix is that you can, if there's specific sorts of data that want to be pulled out, then we can work with Matrix to set up a questionnaire. And so maybe that's key things from the records that yes, it would take a research coordinator or an intern or somebody to manually go through that information. But once they do that once, then it would be entered into the curation form. And so now it's ready for everyone in the future to download a spreadsheet and analyze it. So yes, it starts as the electronic equivalent of a giant stack of papers on your desk, but it doesn't need to stay that way. And it is nice to just have that big old stack of papers all on one desk instead of scattered
Yeah.
across the country or across the world.
I was just wondering then if researchers are contacting you to say like, oh, we're looking for this type of data, how do you send them that if it's not all curated already?
Yeah, so what I'm able to easily send is the survey data and the EHR that's been pulled in directly through the backend integration. That is super easy to send. If there's other information that a researcher is interested in, I think that would be a conversation with Amber and me to figure out what exactly that they're looking for. How can we get it? Do we need to recruit families in order to get that data into Matrix and then put together whatever curation form and then have perhaps one of the research coordinators from COMBINEDBrain, because we have a whole team of fresh graduates who can do work like this to help out the patient advocacy groups. So yes, it would be a conversation and it wouldn't be like an instant data download, but it's definitely something that we would be happy to work together on in order to make that sort of data accessible to the researchers.
I
Thank
also
you.
just wanted to clarify for families on this call that even we are collaborating with our European folks. Our patients, when they come see us, they get enrolled if they want to, which I think everyone has done in our, IRB consented research study that allows us to share most data. There's like raw data of like, genome or exome sequencing, like maybe EEG tracings, but otherwise we're sharing everything. And we have already collaborated with Katrine and the familial study. So I don't want people to feel like if you're not in the US that you're not going to be included, because we're all trying really hard to just combine all the information. And if you're seeing a doctor and there's a chance to enroll in their research, I don't know how Europe works with their IRB equivalents or things like that, or Australia or South America or anywhere, but we are all talking to each other thanks to Amber and her insistence in putting all the different symposium and meetings together, and we are all reaching out to each other and trying to combine. So I don't want people to think that just because of the limitations of uploading things or linking to EHR that like we are not going to be included.
And Pam, I just had a quick question. You're using REDCap and Danish epilepsy, they're also using REDCap. Like, do you talk to each other about the data that you're collecting to try and kind of sync and streamline in some way? So you're collecting the same stuff, asking the same questions?
Yeah, I laugh because we've had so many meetings about and we're still trying to figure out. But yeah, there's a task force. We met at SLC6A1. I don't know if Marie Barnett is on this call, but she's tirelessly been working on putting together the scales and questionnaires and things that we want to all be doing. You can imagine there's limitations to like, okay, we're all going to collect this, but if you are in an institution that doesn't have a PTOT that can run the scales, you can't do it, et cetera. So yes, we are, it's not perfect or great yet, but we're all really staying active and trying to get as much as we can of the same data and standardize it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I can even share these slides in the chat. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all about the type of data we have or about receiving and export. Always happy to help.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I will send out all of my follow-up emails as usual. And today's Thursday. Have a fantastic Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.